It all started with a message carved into the trunk of an old oak tree. Do not look at him. It was a forgotten trail at the back of my grandparents' property in the countryside of Paraná. I only went back there because my grandfather had disappeared days before, leaving only the gate open and his hat on the porch. The local police but gave up after 3 days. They said he might have gotten lost in the woods, but my grandmother knew. She shivered whenever the wind shook the trees at night. He took your grandfather, she would whisper. At first I managed to believe it was just grief, until I found the notebook hidden under the floorboards of his bedroom block. Torn pages, scribbles of eyes, twisted trees, and a tall, thin, faceless figure. Slenderman. By then, I had figured out it was just an internet legend, but there were coordinates written next to the figure. We followed the coordinates. It was 3 kilometers into the forest where the vegetation seemed denser, suffocating. No sound of birds, no wind. The trail seemed to be watching me. I felt its eyes. With each step, a distant voice. He sees. A chill ran down my spine. I found stones piled up in a spiral like a rudimentary altar, and in the center a note wet with dew. He only appears to those who are already marked. My hands were shaking. I was being watched, and for an instant I could see something moving among the trees, a shadow too tall to be human. Night fell quickly, as if the sky wanted to hide from what was approaching. I turned on my flashlight. Fog began to form. In the darkness, screams. They weren't human. They were distorted, like voices recorded backwards. The sound of something, scraping against tree trunks, surrounded me. I ran without looking back, but the forest seemed to never end. My footsteps sank into the damp, soft earth, as if something had recently turned it over. When I finally tripped and fell, I saw footprints. They weren't boots, but something with 2 long toes, and it was fresh. I hid in an old cabin made of rusty, rotten planks. It didn't appear on any map, as if it didn't exist. Inside, the air was heavy, and there was a musty smell mixed with something dead. The walls were covered in children's drawings, trees, shadows, eyes. In a corner, a chair tied with straps. On the floor, a cassette tape and a recorder. I pressed play. The voice that came out was my grandfather's. If you found this, it's already there. The recording ended with a loud noise, a muffled scream, and silence. I was silent for hours until I heard footsteps outside. Slow, rhythmic. The doorknob turned, but no one came in. Only the sound of the forest stopped. I approached the crack in the window. There he was, tall as a pole, arms long as branches. No face, he just looked, or seemed to look. There were no eyes, but I felt the weight of his gaze. I stood still. When I blinked, he was gone. I ran out of the cabin, but the world outside had changed. The forest was no longer the same. Trees, with crooked trunks as if trying to escape from something. I found another notebook tied to a tree with wire. It belonged to a girl named Lucia. She too dreamed of the faceless man. She too affected the coordinates. Her last pages were written with despair. Don't dream. He enters your dreams. He is in me. Her handwriting changed abruptly, as if she were no longer writing. I began to notice a pattern. He marked people with trauma. Fear was the link. When they remembered him, when they drew, wrote, it was the beginning of the end. This was not a creature, it was a concept, a psychic virus. I returned to the city with the diaries. I searched online and found an occult forum with similar stories. A group called The Marked exchanged encrypted messages about encounters with him, people from all over Brazil. One of them, called Espelho Negro, said that it was possible to delay his arrival if we burned the records. But Slenderman liked to be remembered. The more we talked, the stronger he became. The legends fed the entity. I realized that the video I recorded in the forest had already been sent. Without me posting it, he wanted to be seen. I went back. I took with me all the notebooks, tapes, and records. The idea was to burn everything on the stone altar, but the forest seemed to be waiting for me. I walked for hours and realized that the weather inside was different. The sky never cleared. The fog now came from inside the ground. When I reached the altar, there were already marks on the ground. as if something huge had crawled in a circle. Light the fire. A scream echoed, not from one man, but from many at the same time. Then silence. I thought I was finished, but he was still there. A few days later, I woke up with a chest protector. I didn't remember getting hurt. When I looked in the mirror, I realized it was the symbol that appeared in the notebooks, a circle with an X in the middle, his mark. I understood then that it wasn't about escaping. It was about surviving long enough to warn those close to me. Since then, things have changed. The lights turn off by themselves. I receive calls without numbers. Sometimes I hear voices coming from inside the walls. But the worst are the dreams. Because there he speaks, and each time the dream ends, I wake up closer to the forest. If you've watched this far, you're already marked. I'm sorry. Slenderman doesn't have to be physically close. Just remember, just imagine. Right now, he's all around you. Maybe behind the door. Maybe that shadow in the corner of the room that you always thought was normal. Whatever you do, don't share this. Don't spread it because he wants to. And the more people who know, the more he can get in. I tried to stop him. I tried to burn it all down. But he's in me. And now he's in you too. Good luck.